Hi guys, welcome to my channel. Today is a pretty special day because it is the day of the movie Game Boys is coming out today. So I'm so excited about that. I'll talk about something that's not related to Game Boys at all. So it's a series that I started with actually Game Boys. That's why I thought I'd mention it. It still is hot. Though because of the wildfires, the air is literally smoky here. And so it's not good outside. Today, we're back with another series of Is It a Good Story or Was It Really Hyped Up? Today, we're looking at Young Royals. Previously, I reviewed Game Boys actually with this type of structure, and people seemed really to like it, so I thought I would do it with a show that everyone has been talking about. So I'm going to talk about the layout of what the elements of a good story is and then rate it according to that. So let's get into it. The internet would not shut the fuck up about this show. What are the elements of a good story according to me? Number one is characters we feel connected to or can imagine. Number two, the problems of the characters feel grounded in reality, meaning this is something we could go through if we are in the same spot as them. The story feels plausible, meaning the story does not feel out of reach. It is something that we can only imagine in a show. And I think because of a lot of escapism that is associated with a lot of shows, we tend to give it a pass even if it's not a plausible story. Number four, the choices made by the characters in the show or in the story does feel close to ours. Number five and six are kind of combined together. Non-one-dimensional story that feels like it could end in any way, and character development that also feels human. It makes sense for us to all know what the story is about. I don't know why you'd be looking at this review if you haven't watched Young Royals. I'm going to read the Wikipedia page because we trust Wikipedia. Young Royals is a Swedish teen drama television series set at the fictional elite boarding school Hellerska. The plot revolves around Prince Willem of Sweden, his budding romance, and the drama that comes with it. The 6-episode series premiered on Netflix for timeline inserted. After getting in a fight at a club, Prince Willem, the second-born son of Queen Christina of Sweden, is sent to elite boarding school Hellerska. If you're Swedish, please correct me. Located near town of Bajrastad, where his elder brother, Crown Prince Eric, also studied. Fellow student August, the prince's second cousin, watches over Willem as he starts his studies. So that's the synopsis. It's about a prince who got in trouble, so his family just sends him to a boarding school, like a very posh boarding school outside of the city. And basically, he's just trying to fit in. There's romance, there's, being a prince, all of those things. There's also a lot of subplots. So this is my disclaimer. There's a lot of subplots on the show. And I will not be tackling every story and every subplot that I think they did really well and just portraying different people without making it feel crowded. But I'm only going to review the stories of the main characters, who are Simon and Prince Willem. The first elements of a good story that I kind of put together is characters we feel connected to. In this story, I think specifically Simon and Prince Willem, I think even though Prince Willem is a prince, so that may feel kind of he's a prince, I don't fit with this person, I don't really identify with his problems, but we do fit with the belonging side of things, right? So Simon, it comes from a poor family. Both Simon and Prince Willem are people we can really relate to. Simon feels like an outsider because he comes from a low-income family. He also comes from an immigrant family. So obviously, automatically, that is someone that we can connect it to, not feeling like you belong with a larger group, with a mainstream group that is like the nightmare of every person who's ever been a teenager. Then Prince Willem, even though it feels, because he's a prince, it's what else do I have to relate to this guy? If you really think about it, he is coming to this new school and he feels like even with his princeness, he doesn't really feel like he is good enough. His brother is like the overachiever, the person who is kind of like the main star, and nobody really cares for him until, spoiler alert, his brother passes away. And even then he feels like he's like with in a constant struggle about like his real identity that goes outside his sexuality. If that isn't, I don't know, someone we can relate to, I don't know what is. I think that they did a really good job of like mirroring the not belonging that Simon and Prince Willem are feeling to each other, you know, because they should be both like feeling, especially like I think you would say Prince Willem, like of course he should be feeling like he fits in, like he really belongs with these like posh group of people in this boarding school. But you can see that like a lot of the things about him are actually completely unacceptable at the school. He is he's a rebel. He doesn't really follow rules. He's very unprince-like. And very much fitting to the boarding school as a result. In this section, they did a really good job, and I would give it like an A. The second one is problems grounded in reality. Again, this could be interpreted in many ways. I mean, I can really rate like Hunger Games or, you know, a superhero movie and say, still ask the question, like, is the story good? And still use this rating system. And what I mean by, like, is it grounded in reality? I mean, like, is the choices and the things the characters are going through, the emotions they are feeling, is it grounded in reality? With minor adjustments, yes. Someone feeling like being able to court someone, Is this 1855? Like, why did I just say court? Simon feeling like, you know, Prince Willem is like a little bit like outside of his league because he's a prince. But like also, you know, going into the school is like its own privilege. Like his sister is going through her own mental health issues, and you know, those seem very real. And also existing between two worlds, for instance, like with Simon, like, you know, that's really seen through them speaking a different language at home, like they're speaking Spanish, and then they're also switching to like Swedish. That is very illustrative of like immigrant families like living between these two worlds. And then with Prince Willem, of absolutely, like he's going through his like sexuality, like really identifying with his sexuality for the first time, and like really questioning his sexuality as a result of this person that he's still trying to get to know. And then also feeling like he is like living in the shadows of his brother Eric, is also another side of it that feels really close to problems that we would go through as people, because like, you know, feeling like your older brother, your older whatever has all the answers and they're liked by everybody else, and you almost like feel like, it feels like that feels very real, that feels very close to us, like feeling like you are the second choice, you are the person that nobody really looks out for. And for the first time, like, you know, feeling like you like this person, but they don't really fall in with the standards of what's okay and what is okay. Like not just like society, but like what is okay as a prince to do and who to be with, because everything has like rules and everything has a standard, and you're going outside of that. So that feels really, really good. I think they did a really good job. So I would give it an A here too, even though like the problems at face value feel like they are grounded outside of reality, because we're dealing with like very posh people that are like going through their own emotions. It also feels very human and very universal at the same time. Does that make sense? So the third element of a good story is story that feels plausible. The first thing that comes to mind when I think about this in the show Young Royals is this like need to belong, need to be accepted. And that goes again beyond sexuality. It goes like with people thinking that you're good enough, that waving you down when you're walking down to class, or when you are like one of the boys and stuff like that. And then also just like, because, you know, Prince Willem, for instance, is a prince and he's living in the shadows of his brother, who went to the same school previously, it does feel like you almost have to prove something. So that feels very plausible. And I think the one thing that I really liked about it, because they're like teenagers, they're going through all these hormone things, it feels like it could end in any way. It didn't feel like, oh, like he's gonna choose him. And like that probably was like the first thing I thought about, which is like this, like Prince Willem, as soon as his brother died, that's when I knew the show is actually really different than like the typical predictable story that's usually told around sexuality and teenagers and like this like class divide and all of that. I really, really, really appreciated that. I also really appreciated the fact that like Simon, being this like almost like little communist, little radical kid who comes with these ideas that are a little bit more like advanced than these kids, because he has this lived experience that feels very different than these kids that he knows. Like I really like the fact that they did not go in this route of like, oh, he's gonna like radicalize Prince Willem, because that would have been so terrible, because that is not how human beings work. Sometimes like people are not our teachers, especially people of color. They're not our teachers. We're not like, like sometimes like we are always used as like plot devices. And I really like the fact that like they did not do that with this. I see this a lot in BLs. I will make a video about this, but like using, for instance, women as a plot device to further like someone's sexuality and like identifying like who they are as a person. I feel like that could be done in a much more intelligent way. And I feel like, I'm not saying it doesn't happen like when you are with like a woman and you realize, oh, I'm actually not into women. That totally happens, or like vice versa. But I think what I really liked about it is like as soon as like Simon was like speaking in class and like saying things that are like a little bit more like unaccepted, I was like, okay, like are they gonna do the whole like, oh, this kid is not like other kids, the whole like meme that's like, I'm not like other girls, I eat pizza, that type of meme. That's what I thought they were gonna go with, and they didn't. And I'm so glad they didn't, because that feels really plausible, because he is not like, there's like maturity, like he's not having like all these like complex formed thoughts yet. And I don't think we ever get to the point where like we kind of put our emotions and like our relationship to someone on the side. Most of the time we actually choose that and then everything else next. So I just really, really appreciated that they were able to illustrate like how teenagers think, but then also how you think when you actually like someone. Sometimes not that you abandon your value system, but like sometimes you're not thinking with your head, So that felt really good. And because of that, I give it an A at this section. Next thing is like choices feel close to the choices we would have made. Absolutely. I feel like, yeah, that's what I actually really enjoyed. I really enjoyed the last two episodes. Like I said, there's only 6 episodes to this show. The choices feel like choices that not only we would have made, but choices that they made, like including like being extremely selfish. Like, the right choice would have been like Prince Willem not to be with Simon, knowing that he's going to be the prince. That's not what happened. He went in, thought with his heart first. And not only is it beautiful, but like it is extremely choices that we would have made as people that are not on TV. Like sacrificing, like love for the country and all of that. That also did not happen. And they're preparing for like the next season, so they don't want to like go all in with a happy ending. But I really think that's much more important to explore. Like, what did he choose? He didn't choose his country, but he also did not choose Simon. There was no choice to be made. The choice was to really know like what his status is and how he's positioned in life. And he is positioned as a prince who has to make specific choices. Now he is no longer the second son of like a royal family, so he has some obligations. But then also knowing that like heartbreak happens in like not in this like static way, it happens in such dynamic ways. They find out about the video, you know what video I'm talking about if you watched it. When they find out about the video, in a lot of shows, it would have been like, oh my God, you had them recorded, Simon. Like there was so much trust in Simon that Prince William had. He was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe someone recorded it, because he knows the type of position he has in life. Simon is not gonna hire, like there's not like a bigger conspiracy. He's a prince who's living in this like boarding school that everyone is interested in his life, but then also the country, everyone is interested in him. He's a public figure. So I just really, really appreciated that. The whole like, he wasn't like he was selfish when needed, but he wasn't selfish in the most like nonsensical places. He was selfish in the places that we would have been selfish as people. And that makes it super real and very close to home. Last 5 and 6, I kind of combine them together. Character development that feels very plausible, and non-one-dimensional character that feel like the story could end in any way. I was really going in this show knowing that like this is extremely overhyped. And let me just say, there are some shows that are worth overhyping. And I don't really like to put things on a pedestal. I like shows like I Promised You the Moon for reasons that are very concrete and solid to me. But I'm not like, this is the best thing that has ever been created, because that could change depending on the phase of my life and who I am and how I'm interacting with that content. But this show, it did feel it did feel a little bit overhyped to me. The character development, in my opinion, happened in the way that it happens in a teenage show. Absolutely, Prince William saw the way that Simon acts accordingly, and how he acts to him versus like the other kids, and he kind of just like took that and run with it. And sometimes, like I said this before too, character development is not something that's linear. It doesn't say like, oh, this kid was bad, now they're good. This person was this, and like it's not one spectrum to another. Sometimes character development is about some type of growth happening. So would I say either Simon or Prince William expressed some sort of growth in the way that they showed up from episode 1 to episode 6? I have to say kind of. And the reason I say kind of is because in the sense of Simon, I think when it began, it kind of had him as like sort of a plot device-y person who kind of furthers Prince William's like individualness, and like also just like as a prince and like him understanding his own position in life. It focused a lot on like so many subplots that were not Simon. I felt that they did a really good job with the development of Prince William, but I don't think they did a really good job with Simon's character development. And that has to do maybe because like they're trying to on purpose show sometimes when you are with someone who's a public figure, your character development and who you are kind of gets shadowed. It like that's kind of how I interpreted it. That's why I say kinda, like it's not terrible, but I wish I saw like the way Simon saw things and perceived things. I felt that it was very grayish in the way that like his growth happened, and I don't even know if any growth happened. If anything, he kind of became like less Simon, if that makes sense. Like he was he expressed who he was and what type of like individuality he brings to the table less and less as the episodes went on. Whereas Prince William, whatever, he was a lot more like realizing things. Every episode was such a milestone for him. I'd be really curious to know what they will be doing on season 2, because this is a pretty short like series, and I don't even think they were expecting it to be this big. But for what it is, I'm not like mad about it, you know? And then the non-one-dimensional characterization, that feels really solid to me, because one, the way it ended was really solid, and again, that has to do with the fact they're preparing for like a second season, but also it feels really realistic as a prince, like what, you know, recognizing your position in life, but like now your position has changed from being the second son to the first son. So what does that actually mean, and how do you interact with your love life? Like all of those things I feel like made it like really easy for me to be like, oh, like it makes sense why they're going this way. But I also didn't think they were gonna go in the way that they did. So yeah, that's Young Royals. I really enjoyed it, and I actually took 2 weeks to kind of just like really think about what the show was, because I was gonna make this video last week, but then I was like, let me give it another week, because you know, like right away when you watch a show, you have that like adrenaline of like, this was the best show ever, like I really liked it, let me review it. I did not want to do that. I wanted to give it time so that things can like really marinate, and like things can soak in. Right away when I watched it, I was like, wow, that was so well done, like it was one of the best stories. And then when I started to tackle certain things like Simon's characterization, and like the way that like Simon is like a people's pleaser, and the way that he almost felt like very plot devicey, I was like, oh wow, okay, I'm glad I waited a bit to talk about this, because I absolutely think it's a pretty solid show and everyone should watch it. No, there is like some level of overhypeness with every show that gets like remotely popular. So my video cut off before I did my goodbyes, and I had to clear up some storage stuff. But anyway, I just want to say thank you for new subscribers. I'm gonna try to make these series, like I said, more regular, but I like to take a break here and there, because these videos actually take some time to do some research and, you know, put my thoughts together in a way that makes sense. So if you're into that, that's your cup of tea, stay around and we'll talk. We'll have a very good talk. And I'll see you on my next video. Bye guys. I wouldn't waste a minute if I had you all to myself.